Imagine walking into a room full of strangers, already feeling out of place. Now imagine being the center of attention, not because you're celebrated or admired, but because everyone seems to think you're fair game for ridicule. That's exactly what happens to one unsuspecting intern at what should have been just another office party. But this isn't your typical workplace drama. It's about to take an unexpected turn that will leave everyone in the room stunned and some deeply regretful. The scene unfolds at a lavish corporate event hosted by Titan Tech, one of the most prestigious companies in the industry. The room is buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and small talk among employees who are eager to impress their higher-ups. Among them stands Emily Carter, a young intern trying her best to blend in. She's dressed modestly, clutching a glass of soda as if it might anchor her to reality amidst all the glitz and glamour. From the moment she arrived, though, something felt off. Maybe it was the way people glanced at her before turning away with smirks, or how whispers seemed to trail behind her like shadows. Whatever it was, Emily couldn't shake the growing sense that tonight wasn't going to go well. As the night progresses, things only get worse. A group of junior staffers starts making snide comments under their breath, poking fun at Emily's choice of outfit, her nervous demeanor, even questioning why someone like her got hired in the first place. At first, they keep it subtle, just loud enough for those close by to hear, but soon their mockery becomes bolder, more brazen. One of them jokes about how interns must be desperate to attend these events, while another sarcastically wonders aloud whether Emily knows anyone important enough to save her from embarrassment. Laughter erupts around them, and though Emily tries to laugh along, pretending none of it bothers her, the hurt flickers across her face too quickly to hide. What makes this situation even more painful is that no one steps in to stop it. Not the managers hovering nearby, not the colleagues who claim to value teamwork and respect. It's almost as if they've collectively decided that Emily doesn't matter, that she's invisible, except when they need someone to mock. And yet, despite everything, there's a quiet dignity in the way she holds herself together. Her eyes occasionally dart toward the door, longing for escape, but she forces herself to stay. After all, quitting now would mean giving up not just on the job, but on proving herself worthy of belonging here. But then something shifts. Across the room, a man watches the unfolding scene with increasing displeasure. He's tall, impeccably dressed, exuding authority with every step he takes. This is Alexander Hayes, the CEO of Titan Tech, man known for his sharp mind, unshakable confidence, and zero tolerance for disrespect within his company. For most of the evening, he's kept to himself, mingling only briefly with senior executives. But now, his attention is fully focused on the corner where Emily stands, surrounded by cruel laughter. His jaw tightens, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Anyone who knows him can tell he's angry, and when Alexander Hayes gets angry, people notice. Without saying a word, he begins moving through the crowd, parting it effortlessly as heads turn in his direction. There's a hush that falls over the room, the kind that happens when power enters a space. By the time he reaches Emily, the mocking has stopped, replaced by uneasy silence. The same people who moments ago were laughing now look anywhere but at him, suddenly aware that they may have crossed a line they didn't realize existed. Alexander places a protective hand on Emily's shoulder, his touch firm yet gentle. Then, without taking his piercing gaze off the crowd, he says something that sends shockwaves through the entire room. Do any of you know who this woman really is? The question hangs in the air, heavy with implication. No one dares to answer. Some glance nervously at each other. Others pretend to sip their drinks, avoiding eye contact at all costs. Even Emily looks confused, tilting her head slightly as if unsure she heard him correctly. Alexander lets the tension build for a moment longer, his expression unreadable. Finally, he turns to face her fully, his voice softening but still carrying enough weight to command attention. "Emily," he says, his tone deliberate, "I think it's time we cleared up a few misunderstandings." At this point, the audience watching the video is likely holding their breath. What could possibly justify the CEO stepping in so dramatically? Is there more to Emily than meets the eye? Could she truly have a connection to someone as powerful as Alexander Hayes? These questions swirl in the minds of both the characters in the story and the viewers tuning in. The setup deliberately leaves breadcrumbs of intrigue, teasing the possibility of a twist that could redefine everything we thought we knew about Emily Ann, perhaps about Alexander too. Back in the room, whispers start to ripple through the crowd. People exchange skeptical glances, trying to piece together what's happening. Some speculate wildly, suggesting theories ranging from Emily being related to a major investor to her secretly holding a high-ranking position within the company. Others remain silent, too afraid to speculate, given the intensity of Alexander's reaction. Meanwhile, Emily herself appears caught between confusion and apprehension, her earlier attempts at composure faltering under the weight of this sudden spotlight. Whatever revelation Alexander is about to share, it's clear that it won't just impact her, it's going to change the dynamics of the entire room. And just as Alexander opens his mouth to speak, ready to deliver the words that will alter perceptions forever, the scene cuts away. Viewers are left hanging, their curiosity piqued and their emotions invested. Will Emily's identity vindicate her, silencing her tormentors once and for all? Or will the truth bring its own set of complications? The unresolved tension serves as a perfect bridge to the next chapter of the story, ensuring that audiences stick around to find out what happens next. This introduction sets the stage for a tale that explores themes of judgment, redemption, and the hidden layers of identity. It introduces key players like Emily, whose vulnerability makes her relatable, and Alexander, whose protective stance hints at deeper motivations. Through their interactions, the reactions of those around them, the story delves into universal questions about how we treat others based on assumptions and appearances. Most importantly, it hooks viewers not just with dramatic twists, but with authentic human emotions, inviting them to reflect on their own biases and choices. So, what do you think comes next? Stay tuned to discover the truth behind Emily's identity and the fallout that follows. The camera pans back to earlier in the week, giving viewers a glimpse into Emily's life before the party. She's sitting at her desk in a small, cluttered corner of the office, typing furiously on her laptop. Stacks of papers surround her, and sticky notes with scribbled reminders cover the edge of her monitor. It's clear she's working harder than most people realize. As an intern, Emily isn't just trying to prove herself. She's fighting against years of self and insecurity. Her backstory unfolds through snippets of conversations with friends over coffee or late-night calls with family. We learn that Emily grew up in a modest household where opportunities were scarce, but dreams were plenty. For her, landing this internship wasn't just about padding her resume, was about proving to herself that she could break free from limitations others had placed on her. But breaking free isn't easy when you're constantly underestimated. Flashbacks reveal how some co-workers dismissed her ideas during meetings, rolling their eyes or interrupting her mid-sentence. Others treated her like a glorified assistant, asking her to fetch coffee or print documents instead of involving her in meaningful projects. Despite it all, Emily kept her head down, determined not to let negativity derail her. What no one knew, not even those closest to her, was that Emily had already accomplished far more than anyone gave her credit for. Before joining Titan Tech, she'd developed an app prototype aimed at streamlining workflow efficiency. It was innovative, practical, and something Alexander Hayes himself had personally reviewed during the hiring process. Yet none of that mattered once she stepped into the office as just another intern. Meanwhile, we get a closer look at Alexander Hayes' side of things. Through scenes of him in boardroom meetings or walking through the halls of Titan Tech, it becomes evident that he's not your typical CEO. He's fiercely protective of his company culture, often reminding his team that respect and integrity are non-negotiable values. But there's also a softer side to him, a man who cherishes loyalty and despises injustice. A brief flashback shows him speaking passionately at a leadership seminar about the importance of lifting people up rather than tearing them down. Success isn't measured by titles, he says, his voice firm yet empathetic. It's measured by how many lives we touch along the way. These words seem prophetic now, given what's unfolding at the party. As the story returns to the present moment, tension builds further. The room remains eerily silent after Alexander's cryptic question. People shift uncomfortably, unsure whether to apologize, defend themselves, or simply wait for whatever bombshell is coming next. One particularly bold employee, Sarah, steps forward hesitantly. She's the ringleader of the group that mocked Emily earlier, and guilt flashes across her face as Alexander's piercing gaze lands on her. "Sir," she stammers, "we didn't mean anything by it. We were just joking around." Her voice trails off under the weight of his glare. Alexander doesn't respond immediately, letting the silence stretch until it feels unbearable. When he finally speaks, his tone is icy. "Joking around? Is that what you call tearing someone apart because they don't fit your idea of success?" The confrontation escalates as Alexander begins addressing the crowd directly. He talks about the toxic culture that has been festering within the Campania culture he thought he'd stamped out long ago. His words strike a nerve, especially among the senior staff, who suddenly find themselves questioning their own behavior. Some try to rationalize their actions, claiming they were only following suit or didn't think their comments would hurt anyone. Others remain silent, too ashamed to admit their complicity. Amidst the chaos, Emily stands frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. Part of her wants to disappear, while another part wonders if this is her chance to reclaim her dignity, just as the atmosphere reaches its breaking point. Alexander turns back to Emily. His expression softens, though his eyes still carry a hint of sadness. "You deserve better than this," he tells her quietly, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then, glancing at the crowd, he adds, "All of you need to understand something. Emily isn't just any intern. She's someone I trust implicitly. Someone whose work ethic and vision inspire me daily." Gasps ripple through the room as people exchange bewildered looks. Trust, inspiration. From the CAO, the implications are staggering, but Alexander isn't done yet. He takes a deep breath, clearly preparing himself for what comes next. "Emily came to us with an idea so brilliant that it caught my attention instantly. In fact, He pauses dramatically, letting the suspense build. She's been working closely with me on a project that will redefine our company's future. And tonight, she's here representing not just herself, but the potential each of you should strive to recognize in others. The revelation sends shockwaves through the room. Whispers erupt again, louder this time, as people scramble to process what they've just heard. Some look genuinely remorseful, while others seem defensive, struggling to reconcile their earlier mockery with the reality unfolding before them. Meanwhile, Emily's mind races. She hadn't expected Alexander to disclose so much not here. Not now. While relief washes over her, it's tinged with apprehension. Will this change how people see her, or will it make them resent her even more? Back at the center of the drama, Alexander senses the lingering unease. He knows apologies won't fix everything overnight, but he also understands the power of accountability. Turning to the group, he delivers one final message. Tonight, you made assumptions based on appearances. Tomorrow, I expect each of you to reflect on why that happened and what you'll do differently moving forward. With that, he gestures for Emily to follow him, leaving the stunned crowd behind. As they walk away, Emily hesitates, glancing back at the sea of faces watching her leave. There's anger, shame, curiosity, but also a flicker of admiration from a few individuals who clearly regret their earlier behavior. For the first time all evening, she feels a spark of hope. But as the two of them step outside into the cool night air, Alexander surprises her with a confession of his own. "There's something else you should know," he says, his tone uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Something I haven't told anyone else." The screen fades to black, leaving viewers hanging on the edge of their seats. What secret is Alexander hiding? How does it connect to Emily? And will the aftermath of this explosive confrontation bring redemption or ruin? The stakes have never been higher, and the resolution promises to be unforgettable. As Alexander and Emily stand under the soft glow of the outdoor lights, the tension between them feels almost electric. Emily looks up at him, her brow furrowed with curiosity. "What do you mean?" she asks softly, unsure if she's ready for whatever bombshell he's about to drop. Alexander hesitates, his usual confidence wavering as he struggles to find the right words. For a moment, it seems like he might change his mind, but then he takes a deep breath and speaks. "Emily," he begins, his voice steady despite the weight of what he's about to say, "you deserve to know the truth. The reason I've been so invested in your success isn't just because of your talent or even your potential. It's personal." He pauses, searching her face for any sign of understanding. When she only stares back at him, confused, he continues, "I didn't hire you by chance. I've known who you are since before you applied." The revelation hits Emily like a punch to the gut. Her mind races, trying to piece together what he means. Known her before she applied, but how? She opens her mouth to ask, but Alexander cuts her off gently. "Your mother and I were close friends years ago," he explains. "She told me about Uwe, about your dreams, your determination. When I saw your application come across my desk, I recognized your name immediately. I knew I had to give you a chance." For a moment, Emily is too stunned to respond. Memories flood back, her mother talking about an old friend named Alex who'd helped their family during tough times. Someone who believed in them when no one else did. Could it really be him? As realization dawns, tears well up in her eyes. "You're that, Alex," she whispers, her voice trembling. Alexander nods, his expression tender yet tinged with guilt. "Yes, he says quietly. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I wanted you to succeed on your own terms, not because of some connection to me. The confession changes everything. Emily feels a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Gratitude, disbelief, and even a flicker of anger at being kept in the dark. But as she processes it all, something shifts within her. This wasn't just about proving herself to others anymore. It was about honoring the trust her mother and Alexander had placed in her. And suddenly, the ridicule she endured earlier doesn't sting quite as much. If anything, it fuels her resolve to rise above it. Back inside the party, whispers continue to ripple through the crowd. People speculate wildly about what Alexander and Emily might be discussing outside. Some feel guilty for their earlier behavior, while others grow defensive, convinced there must be more to the story. Sarah, the ringleader of the mocking earlier, approaches a group of colleagues nervously. "Do you think she quit after this?" she asks, her voice laced with anxiety. No one answers. They're all too busy wondering the same thing. When Emily and Alexander finally return, the atmosphere in the room shifts dramatically. Emily walks taller now, her shoulders squared and her chin held high. She doesn't need to say a word for everyone to sense the transformation. Alexander addresses the group once more, his tone firm but compassionate. "Tonight has been a wake-up call for all of us," he says, glancing around the room. "We can either learn from this or let it divide us further. The choice is yours." To everyone's surprise, Emily steps forward next. Her voice is calm but powerful as she speaks. "I won't deny that tonight hurt," she admits, meeting the eyes of those who mocked her earlier. "But I also know that mistakes happen. What matters is what we do next." She goes on to share her journey, the struggles she faced growing up, the sacrifices her family made, and the passion that drives her work. By the time she finishes, there's not a dry eye in the room. Even Sarah, who started it all, looks visibly moved. In the days that follow, the company undergoes a subtle but profound shift. Conversations become more inclusive. Opportunities are extended to interns and junior staff, and people start holding each other accountable for fostering a culture of respect. Emily becomes a symbol of resilience, inspiring others to push past their own insecurities. Meanwhile, her relationship with Alexander evolves into a mentorship rooted in mutual admiration and trust. As for the project Emily worked on with Alexander, it launches successfully, earning accolades both within the company and beyond. During the launch event, Alexander publicly credits Emily for her contributions, calling her the heart and soul of the initiative. The applause that follows is thunderous, and for the first time, Emily truly feels seen not just for her work, but for who she is. The story concludes with Emily reflecting on everything that's happened. Sitting alone in her apartment one evening, she flips through old photos of her mother and smiles. She realizes that life rarely goes according to plan, but sometimes the detours lead to the most beautiful destinations. As she closes the photo album, she whispers a quiet thank you to her mum, to Alexander, and to herself for never giving up. For viewers tuning in, the takeaway is clear. True strength lies not in avoiding pain, but in rising above it. Judgment based on appearances can blind us to the brilliance hiding in plain sight, and redemption is possible when we choose empathy over ego. The final shot fades to black with Emily walking confidently into a new chapter of her life, leaving audiences inspired and hopeful.